Good afternoon, everybody. We're in the home stretch, but we're leaving the best for last, and we're going to talk about the Internet of Things, and we're going to learn how that has been activated in Catch. So I'd like to introduce Wade Rushton-Clarke, CEO of Konvoy, to talk us through the Internet of Things. Wade, thank you very much. Big round of applause.
Hi, everyone. Like I said, home stretch. We're raring to go. So before I kick off, harnessing the power of IoT to unlock exponential business value. It sounds pretty sexy, doesn't it? So before I get into it, do you guys want to all stand up? I know there's a lot of you here, so stand up. If you know what Internet of Things is, sit down. Yeah, that's where I was probably about 18 months ago. I didn't really know what Internet of Things is. But I guess with Internet of Things, it's really influencing the way we work, the way we operate, and you'll be actually surprised how much Internet of Things is influencing our environment. Internet of Things is everywhere. It's influencing the way we work, the way we operate. It's even influencing the way we react. So Internet of Things is a really impactful of everyday life in our world. It also influences the way we behave. That sounds really broad and really wishy-washy, which I know, but I'll give you some live examples here. So air conditioners that are controlled by, your smartphone, as an example, that's an Internet of Things. Smart cars that drive or find the best route to go to in the most efficient way. That's another example of Internet of Things. The smartwatch you might be wearing, tracking your daily activity, that's also an Internet of Things. So these sensors that are built into these devices are all examples of Internet of Things, even to connected kegs as well, which is another example of Internet of Things. Internet of Things is a giant network of devices that is connected globally. So it's your smartphones, it's your iPads, it's your computers, it's everything. So you'd be quite surprised how much we're influenced day to day with Internet of Things. Each of these Internet of Thing items, whether it's your smartphone or your iPhone or your keg or whatever, are all operating by sensors. So there's sensors included in those devices. Your smartphone is an example where it's got a sensor. It tracks everything that you do. Electrical appliances today are all examples of Internet of Things there. Traffic lights have all got sensors in them as well. And even smart kegs now have got sensors in there in terms of tracking every movement, every event, anything that's occurring within the environment that surrounds that particular item. So what that emits is heaps and heaps and heaps, thousands and hundreds of thousands of lines of data. And the question is, this is going to become more and more prevalent. So what do you do with the data, and how can you actually work smarter with that data, not harder? So today I'll be working with you guys in demonstrating what that all looks like and how you can do that with some live examples. Before I get started, can you guys get all your iPhones out or your smartphones out now and put it on your camera mode? Yeah? This is all going to be an example of working smarter, not harder. So raise them up once you've got it on your camera mode. Scan that. So hopefully you've all got Instagram. Press connect or follow. Because we need to raise our following. So please follow. I think it was 1,891 followers, so hopefully we're going to crack the 2,000. So that's an example of working smarter, not harder. So a bit about me. I've been in the beverage industry for about 15 years, primarily in beer. Worked for Lion, developed their craft strategy both domestically and globally. And I've had the sort of fortunate sort of area where I've been able to, work with and review a lot of those brands there. So I've had a good sort of bandwidth of industry experience, which, I'm very lucky and fortunate enough to have. So, but as we've gone through this, data and Internet of Things and stuff is evolving, and it's evolving quickly. So I think it's a really important topic to talk about and for us to sort of all walk through today together. So what we'll be walking through is IoT or Internet of Things is here to stay, and I'll present why, and so you can see how that's going to develop over time. I'll use, because it's in every single device, and I haven't got the time to talk about every single device, but what I wanted to talk about today is returnable assets. And returnable assets is a relevant sort of topic for this crowd here, being in breweries and my experience in kegs and stuff like that. So I think it's a good example for me to walk through around how Internet of Things actually can create value for your business. What's the role of returnable assets? And then how can we create value through Internet of Things with returnable assets? And then what are the impacts on sustainability with this as well? So what we've got here is IoT connection forecast. So what that means is at the moment there's 12.5 billion connections of IoT devices globally at the moment. And what that's forecasted to grow to is double by 2030. So what that means is the number of devices that have got IoT sort of enabled sort of capabilities is going to double over the next 7 years. So it's going to become more and more and more important for all businesses around how they can adopt this technology and how they can leverage its power and its data to really create value for your businesses. Where these devices will occur is, 51% of these devices will be media devices, so your iPhones, your smartphones, your smart technology. 21% will be smart grid, so that's being able to control, the whole sort of electricity sort of grids and stuff like that. With electricity providers will be using this technology quite significantly. Connected cars, we're seeing that now with the Teslas, etc., that are becoming more and more prevalent. Lighting, asset tracking, which I'll go through today. Like I said, I want to go through a bit, some live examples there, how IoT has actually, created value. And then in inventory management. So I guess the question is, why returnable assets, and what does that actually mean, and why are we using them and stuff like that? So I guess, the key for returnable assets is around sort of waste reduction. So, the reasons why we use returnable assets is to reduce, the one-time packaging cost, making sure we really sort of tap into that circular economy. CHEP pellets is a great example of that as well. It's a cost-saving thing, so you're not always procuring more packaging or more, more sort of returnable assets that are disposed of. Improve logistics. So that there is, with the, returnable assets, they're built to be stacked, to be put into warehouses more efficiently, everything like that. And then you've got the sort of streamlined processes. So making processes internally a lot more efficient with the supply chain and everything like that in terms of the returnable assets and the environmental sustainability aspect. So you're not using a package once, you're using that asset multiple times to support sort of sustainability type of initiatives there. It does come with some issues, and those issues are, there's a high reliance on, manual processes, which is prone to error and prone to inefficiencies. Again, a prime example, which I'm sure you've all come across, is the CHEP pellet thing. Trying to manage CHEP pellets is a complete nightmare half the time and quite expensive for businesses. So, how do you improve that, and how do you create value from that from an IoT perspective? Lack of visibility and, location. So, where is your CHEP pellet as an example? Half the time they're being missed, or you just don't know where that particular returnable asset is. inadequate labelling or tracking, it's pretty self-explanatory, and inefficient use of resources. So, you want your teams to be spent, particularly sales team as an example, around lost kegs or whatever it might be, around not chasing up a venue for where that keg is, but actually using that salesperson's time to actually make sales. So how do you revert that, and how do you make that a lot more effective use of resources internally? What I'll go through now is a case study, so live examples. And I can't use customer names on here for obvious reasons, but some live examples that we're seeing at Konvoy around, the use of IoT and how that has actually created value for businesses here. So the tagline I've got here is how IoT made the keg smart, the real life story. So that's really talking about how the keg has, with IoT technology, become more capable and more smart. So I think it's worthwhile talking about, how the keg as a live example, as a live case study, has evolved over time. So, the keg was developed in about 1800. The keg was quite dumb. It had no tracking technology, it had no IoT capability. So, it's a piece of metal that's carrying around liquid and beverages and going to certain locations, and it wasn't quite a smart keg. Then you've got the kind of smart keg, the sort of smart keg. So this is around the scanning and the RFID tracking technology there, which is quite manual still. You're having to scan it. If you haven't scanned it properly, it might be, you might not have found it, or et cetera, et cetera. It's kind of smart. And then between now, 2019 and now, we've enabled the smart keg. So with the IoT tracking technology. Quick fact is across Australia and New Zealand, there's about 2.2 to 3 million kegs across the industry, with about 1 in 15 of those kegs that are lost every year, which is costing the beverage industry about $40 million. So, what we've done is at Konvoy, we've really looked at that hard and tried to figure out how do you leverage IoT technology to minimise that loss across the beverage industry, and how do you make things a lot more efficient than what they are. So the other thing on this as well is how do you get that data that's being emitted from the sensors to be able to create value. So how, I guess before I go into the case study examples here, it's probably important to understand how actually IoT works, and because obviously when I got you guys to stand up before, a lot of you guys, aren't sure, aren't familiar with how IoT works, like I was probably 18 months, 2 years ago. So you've got a keg and you've got an IoT device which is connected to a network similar to your mobile phone network or whatever it may be. That emits signals to the cloud. So those, when you look at your internet on your phone, try to connect to a network, it's similar to that. So those things are called SSID. So, it's trying to identify a network which is by a location nearby. So it's emitting all this data to that network and to the cloud. What we measure with this IoT technology is temperature. So every point in the supply chain, how many degrees is that keg? So the smart technology is able to understand what the temperature is at a certain point in time by emitting the data. So it talks about how you sort of control the quality of the beer and how do you make sure that the keg isn't getting too hot. So that creates a temperature event. So we actually understand what the temperature is. And then the other event is geolocation. So like I said before, these SSIDs will emit and try to find a lat and long location. So what that means is basically it will identify the location of that keg based on the SSIDs, which is the internet nearby or the Wi-Fi nearby of where that keg is. What then happens is all that data that it's collecting, because it's collecting data all the time, it's collecting all these records, all this data through all the different events, and then it puts it into a cloud and it comes out to be sort of data and reporting. So you can then use that data to be able to create insights and value for your business, so you know what's actually going on with that particular asset at that point in time. What value does this bring a business? It really brings the value of, real-time asset tracking, so you know where your keg or your asset is at a point in time. It also enhances the utilisation of that asset. So say, for instance, if you've got beer in a keg and it's moving slow or it's moving fast, you're able to understand from the data what's moving fast and how you can actually create more value from a faster moving SKU. Predictive maintenance. So this is around understanding from the sensors and the data that it emits whether that keg or that asset needs preventative maintenance or because it's too hot or whatever it may be. Data-driven insights. So that's talking around the data, using this data and how you use that data to create value. So it could be predictive analytics, it could be demand forecasting, it could be going to the stage of predictive forecasting in the future. So it really helps you with that type of stuff, and then making sure your internal processes become more efficient and less manual. So from this data, how can you create more automation instead of a commercial person in business spending a week doing some forecasting? How can you utilize this data to make your forecasting more automated? So these are some live examples around what we've seen. This is probably examples that we've seen over the last 2 months, to be honest. So we're seeing this all the time. So this beer doesn't taste right. This person talks to the bar person, Joe. Joe basically phones up Sarah and says, "You know what, Sarah, your beer's quality's not right." Sarah then goes to the IoT location and temperature device from in the cloud or the device around the temperature data that the keg is actually being emitted through the sensors. Across 17 days, the keg was being stored at more than 25 degrees. So effectively what happened was the keg was left out in the sun with the product in it, and it created quality issues. As a result, $800 worth of credits were avoided. So what happened there was, obviously if you've got a pub or whatever, getting your product and they're complaining about quality, you're avoiding unnecessary credits or discounts back to that particular venue. Another one, find my lost keg, lost in transit. We've had a customer who has actually lost kegs, couldn't find where their product is. So Sarah phoned up us, said, "Well, I just can't find our kegs. I don't know where our kegs are." We looked at our technology. We located where the keg is based on the lat long of where the device pinged. And then basically 18 lost kegs were found, which was about $8,600, which was avoided by Sarah. Stolen kegs. Joe had his keg stolen at a pub. Basically was able to see it on the CCTV. Contacted us and said, "Oh, someone's stolen my kegs." We actually found the kegs through our location. And then the police were called, the kegs were located, and 8 kegs were found. It sounds a bit silly, but these are simple examples that we see every single day. Last example here is around cycle time improvements. So, you can see here is the orange chart is the producer. So this is how many days it's sitting, the product is sitting at the brewer, or the keg is sitting at the brewery. How many days it's sitting at the distributor. In the green, and in the blue, how many days is it sitting at venue. But what you can see there is between April and May, you can see a reduction in venue days. So that's effectively what has happened here was the brand had changed its beer from beer A to beer B at that venue and reduced the time. So there was a lot more volume going through that particular tap by analysing the cycle days there at the venue, which created for them to double their volume. So if you've got a slow moving SKU that it's on tap, you could use the cycle times to look at that. Just the last piece then on this is around the environmental impacts and of IoT as well. So I guess IoT helps reduce waste, particularly through returnable assets. So you're recycling the same asset all the time. And also what you're doing is you're actually able to locate those kegs at a point in time, or the pallets or whatever it is. So, you know, you're not actually losing stuff, which is an important thing, and a cost reduction thing as well. Efficient use of resources. So it's around, you know, you're able to detect, you know, where your product is or your asset is at a point in time, and getting it to your venues, etc., or customers a lot more efficiently. So it might be better route planning or something like that by using our IoT device, which then in effect reduces the carbon footprint as well. It also improves the lifespan of the asset as well. Like I said before, you know, you've got some predictive maintenance that the IoT device can help you with as well to manage manage the integrity of the product. And then also you're able to use data to further reduce your carbon footprints or whatever it may be. This is going to be particularly more important as businesses focus on Scope 3 as part of the sustainability initiatives. So IoT devices helps you track your footprint through the supply chain. So having an IoT related device and having the IoT capability actually helps you there. I'm being wrapped up here, so this is perfect timing. So basically, in summary, IoT is everywhere. It's going to become more and more prevalent across businesses. So it's important that businesses start investing behind it, because in effect, it's going to create value and cost savings for businesses. It's going to become part of, you know, in addition to everyday life, in addition to businesses' life as well. You know, you've probably had a lot of sort of presentations on, you know, cost savings and stuff like this. Whilst it's an investment, is it actually in the longer term a cost saving, because your business is becoming more efficient with IoT enabled devices and using that data to be a lot more smart in terms of decision making in the way you operate your businesses. And then the sustainability aspect. So as more and more the sustainability around Scope 3 and stuff comes in, the more important it will be around trying to understand your actual footprint on, you know, the supply chain and everything like that from both your businesses and your suppliers' businesses as well. So having IoT actually helps obtain data to be able to understand that impact to the supply chain. That's pretty much it. And I know it was short and sweet, but I think it's an important part of every business is around really understanding technology and how that can actually improve your businesses and create value for your businesses. And IoT, like I said, is going to become more and more important for businesses over time. And we've just got to get it ahead of the curve of that. So if you want to find out more, we're at Stand 45, and, you know, we work with a lot of you guys anyway. So, you know, if you're interested in understanding about our IoT device and you've got access to the cloud and stuff like that and the data, we're more than happy to help you guys out. So thank you very much.